She'atahu Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Ve'imoteinu, Modim Anachnu Lach. She'atahu Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Ve'imoteinu. Thankful for our lives, thankful for our souls, thankful for the miracles, wondrous to behold. Thankful for the morning, thankful for the afternoon, thankful for the evening, nighttime blessed by you. Leolam Va'ed, forever and ever. Leolam Va'ed, forever and ever. Leolam Va'ed, Leolam Va'ed. Forever, Leolam Va'ed, 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 forever, Leolam Va'ed. Modim Anachnu Lach, She'atahu Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Ve'imoteinu. Modim Anachnu Lach, She'atahu Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Ve'imoteinu. Modim Anachnu Lach, She'atahu Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Ve'imoteinu. Leolam Va'ed, Leolam Va'ed, Leolam Va'ed, Leolam Va'ed. Modim Anachnu Lach, She'atahu Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Ve'imoteinu. Modim Anachnu Lach, She'atahu Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Ve'imoteinu. Thankful for our lives, thankful for our souls, thankful for the miracles, wondrous to behold. Thankful for the morning, thankful for the afternoon, thankful
which was fantastic. Wait, was it how many people? Was it 200? 150? That's what I thought, yeah.
That's a fun place to go. Oh, yeah? We're going to get started here in just a minute. Hello, all of you out there in Facebook land. Shabbat Shalom to you all, and to you in the congregation. Shabbat Shalom. We are not quite ready to start our service yet because we're missing one of our musicians, but we will get started in just a few moments, and that will be lovely. Shabbat Shalom. I see Stephanie is here and other folks, and we'll get started in just a few moments. All right. We have a new bottle of Manischewitz. This is exciting.
Vintage.
Yeah, this is
yesterday.
This is the real deal. Yeah. Fresh bottle. Here she comes. Ladies and gentlemen, she needs no introduction. Gail Rose.
Thank you for waiting for me.
Always. Literally always. Glad
That's not true. One time I
No,
had some
you
time.
are worth the wait, Mrs. Rose. Let's join together in singing Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. How good it is that we can be together. Hey Connie, Shabbat Shalom.
Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. One more time. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. For some folks, I feel like this is your first time back in the sanctuary for a Friday night service, so we are so excited to see you in person and not just as a name, although you who are still a name on here, you're good too. And we're just glad to have folks accessing services however you feel the most comfortable on this Erev Shabbat. We're going to join in our candle lighting. You can find that on page 2 in your Siddur or up here on the screen or down in the corner on the screen. And Mrs. Rose has become the candlelighter extraordinaire during these COVID times. There you go. We'll join together. Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. Let's read together here on page 3. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and into our lives. We're going to take just a few moments before we turn to Lachado D. Maybe, Nick, you can play something pretty on the guitar there. We're going to just take a few moments to take a breath. I'm going to see if I can dim the lights here. This is maybe going to work. Take a breath and welcome in a little bit of calm on this Shabbat, a little bit of peace and wholeness. We'll let that wash over us on this Erev Shabbat. Lachado D.
Dodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat, nekavla, lecha dodi, likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat, nekavla. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, umevorach. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, umevorach. Likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat, nekavla.
Let's read together this on page 27, page 27. Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days, lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways. I invite everyone to please rise if you are able as we turn to the Baruch Hu on page 28, and we'll sing together.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? You're lie, lie, lie. 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 Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Vahem, Le'olam Vahem. La-la-lai, lai-lai, la-la-lai, lai-lai, la-la-lai, lai-lai, la-la-lai, lai-lai, la-la-lai, lai-lai, la-la-lai, lai-lai, la-la-lai, lai-lai.
May be seated for a few moments. We're going to continue on page 30 together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim. B'chochma poteach she'arim. Uvitvuna mishane itim. Umachalif et hazmanim. Umesader et hakochavim. B'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono. At the bottom of the page. You are the creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name, ever-living God. May you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. And I'll invite you once again to please rise.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. You may be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha V'chol levavecha Uv'chol nafshecha Uv'chol me'odecha V'hayu Hadavarim ha'ele Asher Anochi mitzavecha Hayom al levavecha V'shinantam levanecha V'dibarta bam B'shivtecha b'veitecha Uv'lechtecha v'derech U'shachbecha u'kumecha U'kshartam le'od al yadecha V'hayu l'totafot b'einecha U'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha U'visharecha Leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim Elohehem Ani Adonai Elohehem Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim v'hiyot lahem le'elokim Ani Adonai Elohehem. Well, we're going to turn in a moment to Michamocha. And by the way, you may have noticed that we're singing a lot of tunes written by Dan Nichols this evening, and that is because we are preparing for his triumphant return to TBS. It's been a number of years, but not next weekend or the weekend after that. But after that, he'll be here for a really lovely Saturday night campfire concert outside, which would be a lot of fun. Parking lot will look as nice as possible for that, and hopefully the weather will hold out. And then a big concert at Sunday school on that following Sunday. So very exciting stuff. That's why you're hearing a lot of Dan stuff tonight. So we're going to celebrate with that. But I also want to see if anybody has a simcha that you'd like to share. Oh, sure. Thanks, Bobby. Simcha you'd like to share. Can we borrow your mic, Nick? All right, any of these, yeah. That'll work. All right. I know Miriam's got a big one. Let me just turn on that microphone. Let's see here. All right.
So this is my very first day of retirement.
Yay!
Yay!
Aw.
After almost 30 years with the City of Columbus and another 12 years before that in private practice. So very excited.
That is terrific. Mm-hmm. And Miriam said she slept in till 7:15 this morning. So mazel tov on that. That is terrific. We're very happy for you. Anybody else?
I got one.
Yeah, Nick.
So this week was my wife and I's 37th wedding anniversary.
Hey, happy
And
anniversary.
then our granddaughters are now 4 and 1 on the same day, Thursday, and we'll be seeing them tomorrow. So that's the best part.
Oh, that's so exciting. That's great. Thank you. Yes, Adlai.
I'm grateful to be healing from having an Inspire device installed in my body to cure my sleep apnea so I don't end up with Alzheimer's.
Yay! Yes, that's terrific. And it's not activated yet, right? Wait, yeah, but it's there. Yes. You are bionic, and we'll look forward to controlling you from an app. That will be great.
On a short range, we're spending the Passover Seder of my son,
Oh, that's
which
beautiful.
is great. On the long range, I came out of Egypt a long time ago.
Oh, man, yeah, that's fair enough. We sure did. Thank you, Dr. Benzakai. And anybody else? Yeah, Meredith.
My sister's here from California. We're spending time with her all week.
It's so nice. These are great simchas. Let me see if any are online. Let's see. I have a nice welcome back. Thank you, Larry, for that. All right. Well, if anyone has a simcha, you can share it online, and we'll read it after Micha Mocha. Thank you, Bobby. Look at this executive director. This guy not only can run the place, but also run around with a microphone. Thank you for that. Let's sing together Micha Mocha. And if you don't know this melody, we usually only do it at Shabbat Chai, but you'll get used to it.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש. תהילות Adonai, Imlach Le'olam Va'ed. Lai la lai la la lai la 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 lai. Lai la lai la la lai la lai lai. Lai la lai la la lai la 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 lai. Lai la lai la la lai la la la.
Turn to our Hashkivenu prayer. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. We ask that God surround us with a shelter of God's peace and God's protection and God's presence. As we're going into the 6th week of this war in Ukraine, we are asking God to send shelter and protection to all those who are feeling vulnerable tonight, to those communities throughout the world that need that protection, and even right here in Columbus, Ohio, we pray for God's sukkah of shalom, God's shelter of peace. Let's join together in singing Hashkivenu, page 42.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, Hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Yashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom Hamidenu Shomreinu
We'll turn to the Amidah together. That begins on page 46, and we'll ask if you are able to please rise.
V'halkel hayim b'chesed v'chayei hakol berachamim rabim tzomech noflim v'rofei cholim umatir asurim umekayem emunato lishenei afar michamocha bal gevurot ulido melach Melech memid umechayeh umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'emanat halachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai mikayeh hakol
Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh kadoshim b'chol yom yehalalucha selah Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. You may be seated. If you'd like to use the words on pages 54 through 60 to continue praying silently or use whatever words are in your heart. We'll take just a few moments for that prayer.
Say shalom bimromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'akol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom. Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'akol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'akol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'akol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom. Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'akol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'akol Yisrael.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This past December, I remember how to speak. Just before the Omicron variant took off, we had a chance to take our family to Disneyland. Lauren's brother and his family live in Los Angeles, so it was a good opportunity to see them and bring our kids to California. And Disney was just about as magical as you would think. The kids loved seeing the characters, the impromptu parades, and some of the rides. I say some of the rides because we ran into a little issue at the beginning of our second day in the park. We decided to start the day by going to a ride called Soarin'. And if you've never heard of it, here's how it works. You sit in a chair in a theater and you're buckled in with a harness, and then the ride starts and the seats go about 40 feet in the air, and you're in front of a giant screen, and the seats move a little bit so you feel like you're flying or soaring over some of the world's most famous landmarks. That morning, we decided to divide up. We had a boys group and a girls group. I ended up just taking Jake and Asher on the ride. Jake sat on my left, Asher on my right. Noah wasn't quite tall enough for the ride yet. Thank God for him. First of all, I had no idea how high the seats would be raised off the ground. That was jarring. People said it's a relaxing and beautiful ride. It might have been beautiful, but it was not relaxing. The moment the ride began, Jake, who was already pretty nervous about the ride, started crying at the top of his lungs, loudly shouting, "Get me off of here, make this stop," screaming and crying so loud throughout the entire ride that I can't imagine that anybody around us actually enjoyed their experience. And then on the other side of me, Asher, more disturbingly, sat there just completely silent and transfixed, didn't say a word. As I had my arms kind of around both of them, with the screaming Jake on one side and Asher on the other, I said, "Guys, isn't this so cool? Look around." The screaming cry continued. "Asher, don't you love this? Isn't it great?" No response from Asher, just the death stare at the screen. Jake screamed and cried for the entire ride, and then about 25 minutes after we got off of it, and Asher was completely mute. He wouldn't say a single word to anyone, and it was one of those moments where you know your kids will be talking about that with a therapist down the road. Finally, about an hour later, Asher angrily said to me, "I hated that." Talk about your instant regret. The moment we got into that theater and I realized what would be happening, I instantly knew that this was not a great choice to bring the kids on that ride, and it was not my greatest parenting moment, to say the least. There's a lady named Catherine Schultz, some of us know as a journalist and author, and she gave a TED Talk a few years ago in which she described a time that she also felt kind of an instant regret following her decision to get a tattoo. She writes, "I regretted it instantly. And by regretted it, I mean I stepped outside of the tattoo place, right there on the Lower East Side of New York, and I had a massive emotional meltdown in broad daylight on the corner of East Broadway and Canal Street," she writes. And this was all actually quite shocking to me, because prior to this moment, I had prided myself on having absolutely no regrets, she writes. In other words, I had drunk our cultural Kool-Aid about regret, which is that lamenting things that occurred in the past is an absolute waste of time, that we should always look forward and not backwards, and that one of the noblest and best things we can do is strive to live a life free of regrets. So many of us are painfully aware, though, that regretting our past decisions and actions maybe isn't a bad thing. Experiencing regret means that we are not so cavalier as to think that we have done everything right, that we have all the right answers. Having regrets means that we are a normal, functioning person within society. Schultz writes that the inability to experience regret is actually one of the diagnostic characteristics of sociopaths. So if you want to feel fully functional and fully human and fully humane and not a sociopath, perhaps we need to learn how to live with and not without our regrets. Perhaps when we address our regrets, we can begin to move forward with our lives. I think a lot of us saw that jarring moment at the Oscars this past Sunday, and with the slap that was heard around the world, and we wonder if Will Smith were to reflect back on that, perhaps he can move forward in a better way than blaming something else and moving on. Tonight we begin this special Shabbat called Shabbat HaChodesh. It's also, as we welcome the new month of Nisan, it's also the month in which we celebrate Passover. This time of year is very important in our tradition in a lot of ways. We see the signs of spring and the renewal and rebirth of the world, even though we probably saw that little bit of snow this morning and were disturbed by that. We are, God willing, slowly coming out of this pandemic. We will hopefully see a little more sunshine and come out of this shell that we feel like we've been in for a long time. And during the season, we also celebrate the birth of Jews as a people, rather than just a family in the book of Genesis. Our peoplehood was born out of that trauma of slavery and servitude. And with those big moments, with those blockbuster moments that we talk about at our Passover Seder, with the sea parting and marching to freedom, there is another important aspect of this season, and that is one of self-reflection. You may think that I'm talking about the high holiday season, that I got the sermons mixed up here, but there is actually another period of time within our tradition that asks us to engage in self-reflection. And that period is called the Omer, which coincides with Passover. You may be asking yourself, what is this Omer thing that he's talking about? And every year we'd like to explain it a little bit. It starts on the second day of Passover, and it's the time between the holiday of Passover and the holiday of Shavuot that falls afterward, where we receive the Torah on Mount Sinai. There are 49 days in between those holidays, and we're instructed to count each of those days and acknowledge them. An omer, that word itself, is an actual measurement of grain that was brought to the temple after the second day of Passover. The Torah instructs us to count each day from the omer offering to Shavuot. So the question is, why? There's a great explanation from Rabbi Jacob Milgram of blessed memory, who wrote, probably he's the world's most great expert on the book of Leviticus. Rabbi Milgram thinks that the solution lies in the number of days the Torah tells us to count. Shavuot is observed on the 50th day, and the Hebrew word for 50 is hamishim, and the Arabic word for 50 is hamsin. In Israel, a Hamsin is also a weather pattern. It is a rapid drop in humidity followed by a ferocious hot desert wind so destructive that it can wipe out a crop overnight. Nowadays, of course, we can predict a Hamsin before it arrives, but imagine a time when there were no meteorologists and the dreaded Hamsin could not be predicted. Farmers literally, maybe not literally, but certainly held their breath during this entire Hamsin season, counting each day as a blessing if the Hamsin didn't come and destroy their crops. That's why you had the counting, says Dr. Milgram. That's why you had the dread and the fear. The Sfirat HaOmer is a period of trepidation and a period of good behavior. That's why the Israelite farmer counted, and that's why the Israelite farmer was in semi-mourning, or to be more exact, in fear and dread during these days. And it makes sense. Each day that there is a chance that your livelihood could be ruined, and then it's not, is a day to be counted and acknowledged. We thank God for our blessings during the Omer. And there's another really beautiful interpretation that the Kabbalists, the Jews who developed mysticism, came up with, is that there are the 49 days between Passover and Shavuot correspond to the 49 drives and traits of the human heart. They understood it as a time of serious introspection and preparation that each person had to go through in order to receive the Torah anew on Mount Sinai. Each day of counting represents a different aspect of our personality and our relationship with God that we have to think about in order to set ourselves on the right path. One value that we're asked to focus on during this period is confronting regrets and living a fuller life. This confrontation with regret takes courage and self-awareness. But our tradition argues that once we make peace with our past decisions and we learn from them, we can really then begin the process of teshuvah, of turning back. Then we can be spiritually ready to receive the Torah on Shavuot after the Omer period has ended. Regrets require two things from us. First, it requires us to have made some decision that we had to make in the first place. And second, it requires imagination. We need to be able to imagine going back and making a different choice. And then we need to push that imaginary scenario forward and imagine how things would have played out in our current relationships. How different would my life be if I hadn't screwed up that relationship, or if I had taken that job with another company, or if I had made contact with my estranged family, or if I had been there when a loved one passed away. Our common regret is that many people, or one common regret that many people feel, is about the life decisions that they've made. I think we rabbis hear about these regrets often because people want to process them together. Some folks regret an unsatisfying career path or not seeing a loved one as often as she should. Many of us live with these regrets at the forefront of our minds, but others of us have these and they just kind of occasionally pop up, little reminders that perhaps we weren't as good as we could have been, or we made a decision that we regret. For me, that happens when I'm driving, usually, for some reason. While we may usually feel that pang of regret, we bury it back into our psyche and we move on to something else. But during the Omer period that's coming up soon, we are instructed to think a little bit differently about our lives, about our hopes and our dreams, and yes, our regrets. We are instructed to act differently than we have in the past. During this time, we are thankful for each day of our lives. We mark every day in that gratitude, and we are instructed to think, if a Hamsin were to come and blow us away right now, what would we want to make right? Who would we want to speak to today? How could we leave this earth having learned from our regrets? Perhaps this can help us make a change in our lives. We must take the opportunity while we have it to ask for forgiveness if we've wronged someone, to offer forgiveness if someone has hurt us. During this time, we not only have the opportunity to make amends, but we actually have a mandate to do so. Regrets between ourselves and other people who are still here and accessible to us, ben adam lechavero, that can be mediated, are really, really important this time of year. We are all imperfect. We're all human beings. We've all screwed up. The question we are instructed to answer during this Passover season is, are we going to address our failings and deal with them and learn from our past mistakes and be better? I hope the answer is yes. During this Shabbat and throughout the Passover season, May we have the strength and the determination to make a real change in our lives. May we turn our regrets into lessons and our demons into angels and our shortcomings into strengths. May we have the courage to confront our mistakes and to address them, and then to be able to erase them from our hearts and our souls wherever possible. May this Omer period inspire us to address our regrets, to free ourselves from their chains, and finally be whole again. We can do that. The Omer starts on the second day of Passover on April 17th, on that Sunday the 17th. So we'll be sending out a daily reminder via Facebook to folks about the day of the Omer and to help process those days. So hopefully we can use this as yet another tool that our tradition has to help us be that best version of ourselves that we all aspire to be. Speaking of which, let's turn to our Misha Berach prayer, our prayer for those who are in need of healing. That best version of ourselves is the one who reaches out to folks who are in need, folks who maybe could use a call or a text or a message or a batch of brownies dropped off on their front porch. We're thinking this evening of Catherine Adler, Marcia Ames, Marilyn Altman, Lynn Adams, Sam Barron, Sarah Bates, Deborah Belford, and Barbara Belford, Marjorie Block, Paul Branson, Lee Booten, Jack Cashman, Dan Kristen. Thinking of Rob Cohn, Lily Kovitz, Adrian Crawford, Rick Crawford, Taya Delano, Gary Dicker, Tony Diegler, Carrie Ebert, Sylvia Eckstein. We're thinking of Elaine Ellick, Michael Fiorelli, Rachel Fish, Olivia Glick, Don Goldberg, Jimmy Green, David Haas, and Don Kerr. Peter Levy and Barb Lucas and Angel Marrero and Fred Martin, Richard McGarvey. Thinking of Minna Melton and Howard Miller and Caleb Moses, Dick Nettleman, Robert Oakley, Nick Parisi, and Aaron Phelan and Ian Phillips. Aaron Plaskow and Rashi Pristowski and Jessica Rathkoff, Cindy Rivitsky. William J. Reese, Barry Richmond, Zachary Rowe, and Irving Rose. We're thinking of Ralph Sauer, Susan Shermer, Barbara Schuster, and Marty Schuster, Richard Schur, Jonah Snyder, Ruth Ann Stewart, Pam Storer, Lou Supowitz, and Robert Weiss. We ask if there are other names of folks who are in need of healing, that either online in the comments or here in the congregation you share those names.
Michael Daly, Colin Willoughby.
Just look and see if we have any online here. Audrey Silverman as well. On their behalf and on behalf of those who we're thinking of only in our hearts, we sing Misha Berach and we say, "Blessed are you, God, who sends strength and hope and healing power."
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
Thinking also of Derek Silverman and Lance Koenig.
Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. And let us say, Amen.
We have this special prayer for Ukraine that we have been offering during this conflict, and this is written by Miriam Klimova, who is an HUC rabbinical student, a Ukrainian student who is actually in Jerusalem studying at HUC there to become a rabbi. Let's read this together. Perhaps only migrating birds know, suspended between earth and sky, the heartache of two homelands. Our God, bless our friends and relatives. Lord of all creatures, by your great mercy, protect all the inhabitants of your world. Spread over them a canopy of peace. Liberate them from all hatred and enmity, and plant in the hearts of all people of this earth love and fraternity, friendship and peace, and fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation will not lift up sword against nation, nor will they train for war anymore. Amen. Turn to Aleinu on page 282, and we'll invite you to please rise if you are able.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula liyotzei bereshit, shelo asanu k'yeh ha'aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'cho hamonam, v'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
However brief may be our time on earth, O God, you endow those fleeting days with abiding worth. We recall the loved ones whom death has recently taken from us. We are thinking of Dorothy Cohn, David Divya, Pamela Schultz, Marjorie Schulman. We remember those who have been killed in terror attacks in Israel in the past 10 days. And their names are Amir Khori, Rabbi Avishai Yeheskel, Rabbi Yaakov Shalom, Dimitri Midrik, Victor Sukorufut, Shirel Abikraut, Vizan Falach, Laura Yitzchak, Rabbi Moshe Karbitsky, Doris Yachbas, and Menachem Yeskel. We remember also those who died at this season in years past, and we take them into our hearts with our own. We're thinking of Rose Cooperman, Ronald Costa, Philip Daub, Gene Epstein, David Fuhrer, Jeanette Friedman, Seymour Golden, Saul Horn, Shauna Itkoff, Richard Jackson, Yuli Kamenetsky, Sylvia Miller, George Resnick, Phyllis Rosen, Yetta Roth, Sanford Sanford, Harrison Schuster, Noel Seacole, Theodore Singlinger, Vladimir Slobodkin, and Alan Weinberg. I ask, are there other names of folks who we are thinking of for Kaddish this evening? Any others? On their behalf and on behalf of all those who have no one to say Kaddish for them, we turn to page 294, or up here on the screen, as we recite our Kaddish prayer together. Yitkadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'la'amei almaya, yiparach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudasham b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chayim alenu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May God, who brings harmony and peace to our world, bring peace and wholeness to each of us who seeks it. And together we say, Amen. You may be seated. And I am going to call on Robert Kovitz. There is an online comment that says that you are the cutest executive director. I think it might be your wife. Yeah, I hope so.
Not so secret admirer.
Yes.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this extremely cold April Shabbat. It's cold for some reason in April. We have a bunch of stuff coming up, all really exciting. April is a jam-packed month, as Rabbi Benji alluded to. Next Friday, we have our April First Friday family-friendly service featuring...
Even though it's
Second Friday, yeah, first, second Friday, somewhere in there. Featuring the religious school's 4th grade, and Men's Club will be providing dinner, so please join us for that. That is at 6:30 as usual. That same weekend, April 9th through the 10th, Mitzvah Day makes its triumphant return after being on the sidelines since 2019, which is crazy to say. So we have a really exciting Mitzvah Day plan. The Mitzvah Day committee has done a fantastic job rebooting Mitzvah Day and providing a whole host of opportunities. So please check out the website, check out the e-window to see what's going on, and hopefully you're able to make it and sign up to participate. Passover is right around the corner, April 15th. You can also check out the website or the e-window to make your Passover plans and join us for the first night Seder at TBS. We'll have a short Shabbat service at 5:30, followed by Seder at 6 o'clock. The window for April will be in your mailboxes early next week. That has all of the details about what's going on in April. So please check that out and let us know if you have any questions. With that, thank you for making TBS your Jewish home. Have a wonderful weekend.
Shabbat Shalom. Yeah, we're like First Friday. Yeah, it could be done on the second Friday. We're Reformed Jews. We can get away with that. All right, our closing song, maybe we'll do Kiddush Motzi. Let's do closing song, then we'll do Kiddush Motzi after that. Is a Dan Nichols song, Sweet as Honey. It's a fun one.
Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asot b'divrei Torah, la'asot b'divrei Torah. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue. Sweet as honey, sweet as honey, sweet as honey on our tongue. Sweet as honey on our tongue.
All right. Natalie? This is a new bottle of Manischewitz. Fresh. I think that actually makes it better in Manischewitz wine than it'll, yeah. There you go. Let's do short. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen l'chaim. Our resident Manischewitz expert.
What do you think?
It has a different profile.
Oh, it does? Different profile.
What's the note? What do you notice about it?
The note is cheap. Well, let's join together. Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi la'am mi'haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Mine are big fat square ones.
Here, I'll put it over here.
All right.